anger comes up typically because there's a boundary that's been violated, something that's not okay. And that emotion is designed to come up in us to protect us or to change something that's not okay.
%83 of Americans identify as not very happy, which can hold you back and negatively affect your relationships and your business. On this podcast, we discuss the proven steps to happiness so you can restore balance and rekindle your joy.
Welcome to another episode of How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. We are so glad you're here to learn more about the powerful human being that you are. We get to explore mindset and habits and unlock our fullest potential so that we can get greater success and fulfillment both on the outside and on the inside. So today is nothing short of amazing. We have Connie Habash, which I love. And she's going to help us understand, how do you live with greater ease and joy by learning the art of living in flow. So if you're listening and you have anxiety you want to overcome, you want to deepen your connections, or you just want a little bit more peace and ease in your day-to-day, this is going to be the episode for you. So stay tuned. Before we dive in, we're going to share a quick message from our sponsor, Limitless You. It's a message you don't want to miss, and one that maybe will inspire you to take the next step in a profoundly life-changing adventure.
Hi, I'm Brad Chandler. For over 20 years, I flipped 4,500 homes, chasing success I thought would bring peace. What I didn't realize was the stress and chaos weren't from my business. They were signals of deeper issues.
And I'm Yvonne. My path was different, but equally eye-opening. I spent years transforming organizations into high-performing powerhouses, yet I neglected my own well-being. When I began uncovering subconscious patterns and listening to my body, everything changed.
That's why we founded Limitless You, to help business owners and executives like you uncover and conquer the subconscious beliefs holding you back. Whether it's the stress of business chaos, overworking, relationship problems, or anxiety and self-doubt, these are signals, indicators of deeper patterns that can be rewired to unlock your full potential.
Imagine building a business that fuels your joy and fulfillment.
If you're ready to stop surviving and start thriving, visit unlocklimitlessyou.com and book a free session.
Let us help you build a life that doesn't just look good, but also feels good.
All right. Now let's get back to the show. Connie, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Yvonne. It's really great to be here with you. I'm loving your energy already.
We're fellow yogis and meditators, so you guys are in for a lot of positive energy. Whether you can see us or hear us, we are sending it your way. So open up and receive. I'm so excited to have this conversation, and I really want to learn more from Connie. So let's hop right in. So Connie, we're talking about flow, and we've all heard about this flow, those when you're in the zone. Sometimes people just hear about it super amazing athletes. Some of us have actually had moments where life does feel effortless, right? And we feel like, oh, we can just relax and be in flow. Can you share a personal experience that you've had where you felt the sense of flow that we're talking about today, and how it helped shape your understanding on how you could live in harmony?
The way that I most easily access flow is really focusing on being here in the present moment. And I think what brings me, there are a number of things that bring me really into the present moment, but probably most is being out in nature. I'm actually I just came in from a hike before this podcast. So I'm in my outdoor gear here. That it brings me joy, and it brings me back to aliveness and what's real here in this moment. This morning I was with a friend, and we were enjoying watching two yearling fawns chasing each other and playing while their mother doe was watching. We noticed that there was some new Indian, it's called warrior's plume and hound's tongue. They're two of the earliest spring flowers that we have here up in the San Francisco Bay Area. They're starting to emerge from the ground. And every time we see things like this, we saw a little rabbit, we pause and we stop and we're right there with it. And it makes me feel alive and connected. And then when I'm in that present moment and I feel alive and connected, then whatever is in my life, I respond to with more ease and less reactivity. And I'm able to ride the wave with it or the current with it and let it take me where it's intended to go. Or for me to, you might get in the flow by getting in a canoe and you're steering a little bit. So I'm still having an intention of where I'm wanting to go, but I'm still also following the current that's being brought to me. So that's kind of in a nutshell. Like if I come back into the present moment by being out in nature, I come back into the present moment by being with my breath. I come back into the present moment by being here with you and making eye contact through the camera with you, or on my yoga mat, or I do indoor climbing. You really have to be in the present when you're doing climbing. Those things bring me into the present moment, and then I connect with the state of feeling and flow.
I love that. So I get it, but I probably didn't get it 10 years ago. And some of our listeners might not get it. Some of our listeners might be like the old Yvonne, which was, I don't have time to even take a walk. Like I got the bills to pay, I got the kids, I got the job, I got to bring in the revenue. A lot of our listeners are entrepreneurs, right? And I'm new to the entrepreneur world. That's no joke, right? It's 24/7 for a lot of them. So what I want to think about and talk about today is for the people who aren't quite there yet. Like, I think everything that you said is absolutely beautiful. I want to meet people where they're at, right? For me, it took like a major traumatic event in my life where there was divorce and the rug got pulled under. My girlfriend drugged me to yoga and I'm like, I hate yoga. But then I got there and my life started to change in ways that you just can't really explain as much as you can experience. So knowing everybody's not kind of where you're at now, what would you advise to someone who like feels stuck or disconnected from the present or unable to enjoy nature? Like that's just what they believe right now
Or
for
maybe
them.
even don't have access to it, right? Because some
Exactly,
people are
right? They could be living in this city, like I always used to say, a
high
concrete
rise.
jungle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what's one simple or practical step they can take today to start aligning or start taking that journey towards the flow, the connection to the present, the connection to what's real in nature that you described?
Well, I think what I'd suggest first is noticing all the ways that you're not present, all the ways that we keep ourselves. I mean, I'm very, very busy right now. In fact, when I describe everything that I'm doing right now, I think it sort of boggles other people's minds. And I'm feeling a bit like a juggler. Like I've got this and I'm doing the consultation group and I'm doing this group and I'm leading that workshop and I'm doing this speaking engagement, blah, blah, blah. But what I find is true, no matter how busy I am, is that there's always this present moment.
Yeah.
And when I'm taking myself out of the present by worrying about this coming up there and worrying about that, and no, I have to check off that, and I know I need to, then I'm actually not as effective at any of it. I'm just spinning, right? Like the minds are like, oh, but I have to, and stressing myself out, worrying about things that aren't right here.
Absolutely.
And this moment is what we have. And we are not trained to be in this moment. We're trained to be thinking about whatever's next and planning and checking off the box and adding. And then once we've got our list done, we have to create a new list and check off more to-dos and add to those, right? And it's not that those things don't need to be done. It's that they're not all being done right now. And that if our mind is trying to do them all in our head right now, we're not really doing anything and we're not really present with anything fully. And I find that I'm much more effective and efficient and get more things done when I'm like, okay, what's next here right now? Let me be present with that.
Absolutely.
Let me be here with Yvonne right now. Because if I'm thinking about all those other things, and I'm not really here with you, it's not a very good podcast, is it?
No, and it's
We don't
so
really connect.
funny. Like you're basically describing how I used to be, and also how sometimes if I'm not careful, I fall back into, right? It used to be like multitasking was like a really amazing skill, but it's actually not.
We've actually found that multitasking is not as efficient. It doesn't create as good a quality work, and it causes excess stress. So
Absolutely.
science has found that it's really not good. And unfortunately, we're in an extreme multitasking era with people like, I'll confess, my daughter shared with me, she's in college, that sometimes she's in a lecture and she's also doing something else on her laptop at the same time. Like that's mainly because she's in a class that she thinks is too easy at the moment. But
I have kids that are like, they got two different things that they're watching at the same time while they're, and they're just like, it's not good actually for your brain. Like you said, modern
it's
science has
not
proven
good
it.
for our brain. It wires our nervous system in a way that keeps us in a constant state of agitation. And, when you're young, you can get away with it for a while. But as you start to get older, the adrenaline in our body is frying us out.
Yes.
Our nervous system is getting so overamped up that now it can't hold any charge. And you might find that you're more reactive, you're more easily startled, you're more easily, snapping at your spouse or your kids or whatever, because our nervous system is not designed to be in a constant state of hyper alert, hyper going, spinning around. We need to, when you look at animals, for example, and this comes from the work of Peter Levine, and his most well-known book, I think, is called Waking the Tiger, but I like In an Unspoken Voice because less triggering to read. But he talks about trauma and how to overcome trauma, and that what animals do, like say that it's a gazelle that's been chased by a lion. Sorry, trigger alert for people. And let's say, if the gazelle gets caught and they go into like a faint, they just kind of pass out, fortunately. But then let's say that the lion left it there to go find its cubs to come back to eat the gazelle. The gazelle has some time there that it might be able to escape. And so what it does is it escapes. And then when it gets to safety, it shakes and it gets all of the trauma of that out of the body. And then it comes back to the present moment. And you can see this with deer if you live somewhere near that, because we have deer here. I have to drive 20 minutes, but we have them nearby. They come back to the present moment. That's what's different about us humans is we don't.
Yeah. And I think it's funny.
Spinning.
My dog does that, right? And if you've heard the phrase shake it off, that's what it is.
Exactly.
It's just shaking off that energy so that you can release it, because we are all energy. Not everybody knows that multitasking isn't efficient. Not everybody knows yet that we're all energy. We're continuing to share that message. I think one of the things that you said, Connie, I want you to pull the thread on a little bit. We work with a lot of entrepreneurs at Limitless You, and some of them have a fear of letting go of, they think that that's their edge and that's how they're going to, be able to do the things that they need to do. And I think both can be true. Like you said, it can be your edge in the short term, but what I tell them, it's their early grave as well.
Yes.
So when you are in that hyper state of arousal or fight or flight or freeze, our bodies aren't meant to stay in that.
No.
So I really want to do this in a very thoughtful way, right? I want to wake people up. So it's funny, I follow this guy occasionally. You might have heard of him, Sadhguru. And he says, like, the past isn't real. It's no longer, like, you can't be in the past.
Not
The
there
present,
anymore. It's
the
gone.
present is the only thing that's real, but the past isn't real and the future isn't real. But we spend most of our time worrying about that. And he's like, isn't that the definition of schizophrenia?
Right. Not being in reality.
Exactly. So sometimes a lot of times we leverage hypnotherapy in our transformational programs, and people are like, oh, I'm afraid, I'm not sure about this hypnosis stuff. And I'm like, it's not even scary. And besides, you're already in a social trance, because we're all living this society, like, has acceptable level of schizophrenia by, like, what you were saying, like all the check boxes from the future, all the stuff in the past. the only place we can actually live is in the present. We just
Absolutely. This is
don't
all
know
that we
that.
have. In reality, this is all that we have, is right here, right now. No other moment is here but this moment. Yeah. And you talked about like entrepreneurs having a hard time letting go, which I understand, because like you're trying to drive your business, right? I mean, I am constantly, doing I don't call it marketing, but that's what it is. I'm writing my emails, and I'm posting my blogs, and I'm going on podcasts, and I'm going to speak at places. But the issue with not letting go, of course, is control, right? That we want to believe that we have things under our control, and we want to try to control everything because we have an irrational thought that controlling everything will make it all the way I want it to be. And actually, so much of life is not in our control. In fact, the majority of what's outside of us, I'm sorry to break it to you,
It's
is
an
not in our
illusion.
control, right? What is, I mean, I know but I mean, I feel like anyone
I didn't.
listening,
I'm a recovering control
no!
freak and perfectionist. So
I'm a recovering perfectionist. Yes, I always say that, right? So like, what the only thing we have control of is how we respond to the moment.
yeah,
That's the bottom line, which has to do with what thoughts we are thinking and what thoughts we choose to keep following or not following, what we intend, or whether we go about things haphazardly and let our reactions determine it. So we don't always have control of what's going on in the outside world. I think we're all very aware of that in this moment in history. But we can control what we choose here in this present moment, and how we're dealing with what comes up in us. Okay, so I talked about like the blocks to being present. Well, a lot of our blocks to being present are emotional triggers that create thought patterns that send us into these spins. And so, to kind of dial it back a little bit, like how do I get to the place of flow, is learning to let go of all the resistance
yeah,
to being in it, and all of those reactions and all those old thought patterns. I talk about it like being like a deer path on the, I'm using lots of deer metaphors today, but like if you've ever been out hiking, deers create their own little paths, and we have our own little human trails, right?
right.
So we just follow the trail, right? Well, we have like these in our mind. In yoga, you might be familiar with this term. They're called samskaras. That's
Mhm.
the Sanskrit word for these insidious thought patterns that perpetuate the same kind of experiences and reactions and all of that. And in order to live in flow, in order to grow as a person, in order to spiritually awaken, if we want to go to that direction, because I talk a lot about that in the work that I do, we need to release these samskaras and step off of the trail and create new, more effective mental and emotional paths to how we respond to the world. And coming back into the present moment will help us. And how do we do that? Well, one of the ways that I find most effective is learning to feel your emotions until they move through like a wave. And I'm sorry, that's probably might be hearing. Are you hearing that sound? That's the garage
It's
downstairs.
okay.
But see, that's whenever that happens, that's like come back into the present moment. When
Yeah.
I have a sound or a plane flying overhead and I could be upset about it, I could be like annoyed by it, or I could say, okay, reminding me to come back here to present moment, here and now. About feeling emotions. A lot of times we are trying to resist feeling what we feel and avoid like the stress, the worry, the anxiety that's coming up about like, am I going to be able to like get this book done on time or whatever it is, right? If we keep trying to avoid the anxiety about it, it's like treading water. Have you ever been in a pool and you've tread water?
Yeah, and I get really tired.
Yeah. How long does it take you to get tired? Like a couple minutes, right?
Maybe
Well,
less.
no, maybe less, right? For a lot of us, like maybe 30 seconds, we're like, can I just, float for a while, right? Well, that's
Yeah.
what we need to do, is we need to learn to float. We need to learn to scuba dive, or we need to learn to dive into the wave. So sometimes emotions or stuff in life is coming at us like a wave. Have you ever swam in the ocean, Yvonne?
Yes.
Okay. So like, let's say you're wading out and you're right near where the waves are crashing. Should you just stand there?
You get knocked down.
You're right. Right. If you just stand there like, okay, it's a wave, I'm just going to stand there. I'm going to resist it. It's just going to knock you over. Right. So you learn that how I swim in the ocean is I have to dive into the wave, which is like the last thing you want to do when there's an emotion up, like fear or anxiety or anger. You don't want to dive into it. And you're also afraid that if you do, it'll take you over and you'll blow up or whatever it is. Well, diving into the wave doesn't mean you just go off on people. That's not what it is. It means you stop in the present moment and you let yourself feel what you're experiencing in your body, and you breathe with it and you let yourself feel it, and not let your thoughts keep driving it. So what
Absolutely.
I talk about is that a lot of times people think they're feeling their emotions and they're not. They're thinking their emotions. They're
Yes.
recreating their emotions over and over by, oh my God, but they said this and I can't believe this happened. And I just can't deal with this. And it's awful and terrible. Like, that's driving your emotion.
Yeah.
If you let go of that whole story and you come into, okay, tightness in my chest, like shortness of breath, tense in my shoulders. I'm going to stay with this a little bit. I'm going to soften into it a little bit. I'm going to let myself open to that a little bit with compassion. I guarantee you it will not last forever. Everyone's afraid it's going to last forever. But if you actually stop and you're compassionately with it and you're not like letting your mind keep taking you back into the story, it will start to change. Now, it might get a little bit more intense at first. And then just like a wave, right? It crests, it builds, and then comes in and then recedes back into the ocean. You'll be able to move through it. Now, sometimes people need an assistant, a guide for that. That's why I do what I do as a therapist. But that will help people return to the present. And now I can respond rather than react.
Yeah. And like, even think about it, more than just respond, right? You're surfing and having fun once you learn how to ride the waves.
Exactly, because then the flow can take you somewhere exciting or empowering or healing or
Absolutely.
transformative, that
Absolutely.
you couldn't get to if you didn't stop treading water and spending all your energy on resisting.
Absolutely. People, I work with a lot of clients where they've been taught and it's not their fault. Like, guys, if you're listening and you're like, I don't want to feel my emotions. I don't want to feel them at all. I don't even want to look at them. It's not your fault. It's how you were conditioned, right? That's
Exactly.
how you survived as a kid. If
Right
you
on.
didn't have somebody like a parent like Connie that was like, okay, well, here's what's going on and here's how you work through it. We have, if you go to unlocklimitlessyou.com/resources, there's something, it's so great how much aligned we are, Connie. We built this thing called the Joy Regenerator that takes people through the steps exactly like you talked about, right?
Awesome.
Just to pause, to feel in your body, to return to your breath. What I want you to think about, guys, is emotions and sensations are not good or bad. They're just
That's right.
information. We're in
Absolutely.
the information age. Everybody wants information. Everybody's selling information. But the human being's the most complicated, amazing, sophisticated thing that's giving you information. And you're like, nope, I don't want it. So I want you guys to look at that as valuable information. What am I feeling? What might be, let's be curious about it. What's the source of it? What is my body trying to tell me? What is it trying to get me to do? Is it because of that? Is that true even? Like, am I in mortal danger? No, like, typically if you feel anxiety, it's like, I love all of your, I think nature is the perfect thing to go to, right? In anything, like you talked about the ocean, think about the river, right? If I was floating down the river, which I used to do, I'm from the Midwest. If I tried to resist the river, it would be very uncomfortable and I'd get beaten up. But if I
Right.
learn to just surrender, trust, relax, the river will actually take me where I'm meant to go.
Exactly.
And then I'll be in flow. And life's the same way. So when you're feeling emotions or sensations, do what Connie said, let them flow through you. And also know you don't have to be scared of them. You actually want to get curious. Oh, what is this from? Right?
Mm-hmm.
We work with people all the time who they don't know what they're feeling. And they think like I did. I thought, oh, my childhood's perfect. Right? When I grew up in the town of 2,400 in the Midwest, there's cows and cornfields across the street. Like, how could that be bad? My parents are still together. it's never the experience that impacts you, Connie. It's like what you said. It's like the thoughts you give it. It's a meaning you
Right.
give the experience.
What story are we telling about it? And we can always rewrite the story if we want to.
Absolutely.
It doesn't, so, certain events may have happened in our lives and we may have told a story like, oh, that messed me up and, oh, I'll never be the same or whatever. Or we can start to say, that was painful and that was difficult. And what I'm learning from it and how I'm growing from it is this, and what it's giving me a new opportunity to see or understand is this. So we learn to take, it doesn't mean that you just, succumb to life, but to go in the flow. It means that you're open and receptive and accept what is, and then learn how to respond to that in a new way and tell a different story, maybe a more empowering story, and let that take you to the next empowerment or the next opening or the next new insight or the next new awareness or the next opportunity.
Absolutely. I love that. What popped up in my mind, like, let's go back to floating in the river, right? I can still like stick my arm out this way or my leg out that way and
Sure.
slightly guide, right?
Yes. Or you have a paddle, maybe,
Yeah. And I think about, I can't remember the name of the self-defense, but you see the tiny little old ladies like overpowering these huge muscle-bound men. And it's not because they're stronger, it's because they've learned how to manage the flow of the person's energy. So to your point of being able to take the next thing, the next adventure, the next empowerment in life, it's sometimes people misinterpret like surrendering and trusting, like you said, like just kind of like giving up and letting people walk all over you. It's actually not that. It's more like what are those like the last airbender, you see the yogis within there harnessing all the power and all the energy, and then the most powerful, agile, powerful, successful beings, because they understand flow.
Mm-hmm.
So for somebody listening, Connie, you talk a lot about balancing, giving, doing, receiving, nature, like
Mm-hmm.
all of it. And I know for me, it took, the cliche, inspiration or desperation, to take the first step.
Yeah.
I really believe that we can't tell anybody to do anything. We can inspire them to take
Absolutely.
action
Mm-hmm.
and to experience something on their own and see if it works for them and see if it doesn't work for them. So, what piece of advice or mindset shift would you encourage listeners to experiment with, right? I don't want them to blindly believe us. Like, what could they try today?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of my favorite mantras for myself is trust the process. And this is something I share with all my clients and that I practice in my life myself, in that not everything in life, of course, is perfect, right? And sometimes we go through difficult times, but there's something that is carrying us toward. And if we allow ourselves, like you were talking about, feeling the emotion and kind of listening to it, getting a sense of it. I could talk about this in my book too. That there's a reason why it's coming up. There's a message that it has. There's something that it's bringing to your attention. So like if you're having a lot of anger, for example, and a lot of people are scared of anger because understandably, maybe we were yelled at as kids. Maybe anger was volatile and frightening in our family of origin. But emotions, like you said, sensations, emotions are not good or bad. They're all important and part of our human experience and needed. So if we trust that, okay, anger is coming up in me, what can I trust in it about that? Well, I need to get to know the anger before I trust in it, right? We don't want to trust in it and react and then become like a volcano, like our parents did or something like that.
Right.
We want to dive into what's this anger expressing? What is it needing? Anger comes up typically because there's a boundary that's been violated, something that's not okay. And that emotion is designed to come up in us to protect us or to change something that's not okay or to change a situation that's unsafe. So we need to find out, what is the anger trying to express? What is it trying to say? And so trusting that process of, if I'm feeling fear right now, well, then there's something in the fear that's needing to reveal itself to me. And it's the fear, to me, I like to say that fear is an indication of the onset of power. If we're being afraid because something's challenging us, and we either need to respond by moving away, or we need to respond by moving through. And so listening to what these sensations and emotions are bringing up for us, and really trying to discern, like, if it could talk, what would it be saying? And let that help be a guidance for you then, and how you can live more in flow, rather than, denying that there's anger, or there's anxiety, or there's resistance going on. Okay, there's resistance. I always tell clients, okay, like, we're going to work with the resistance. We're going to, rather than trying to push through it, we're going to embrace it. So welcoming in what shows up. It doesn't mean succumbing to it. It doesn't mean like, oh, I'm just going to you don't want to let abuse happen to you, right? But accepting, here's something that's happening in my life. If you don't accept it, then you can't do anything about it. If you try and resist or but deny that it's there. Okay, this is happening. Now, what is the opportunity that's showing? What is it trying to point me toward? What is it trying to awaken me to? And that's the flow that you go with there. And that's the process that you trust.
I love that. If you're listening, you might have heard it before. I want you to start practicing with it. I love that. Trust the process. I also love it's happening for you, not to you. Right.
Exactly.
So like Connie's talking about, like, there's some information in there. So as a recovering control freak, right?
Right. Both of us.
And it's a huge illusion, like you said, like you're not actually in control. And it took the universe like smacking me around several times for me to figure that out. If you really want control, if you really want to have, the only control you have, like we talked about, are your own thoughts, right? So if you're feeling anger or sadness or anxiety, you're afraid because you're feeling sensations in your body you're not controlling. And so we try to numb them out. We try to either suppress them, or people turn to drinking or drugs, or like I used to binge watching Netflix and drinking a bunch of wine and trying to escape my reality, right? That's not going to give you the power. Those emotions, those feelings, you're just going to stay ignorant of them. So do what Connie said, bring them in closer, get curious about them. Number one, it's okay that you're having them, right? Most of our subconscious minds, unless you've done some subconscious mind work, it's still the age of a 6 or 7-year-old, no matter what you look like on the outside. So have compassion that you're feeling those things, because your little brain, not little as in small, but as in like a little you, an inner child, is using old definitions of meanings of programs like Connie talked about to define what might happen or what might not happen or what has happened. None of it, which is the present moment in reality, like we talked about earlier.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
And on that subject of control, right, is actually one of the things that we can control is choosing to let it go.
Yeah.
And choosing to allow, so coming back to trusting the process, allowing something greater than us to guide and direct and move through us, speak through us, write through us. So something greater to me being I call it the divine. So being clear on what that greater is. You're not just handing it over to the CEO of a corporation, right? It's like really like the universe or spirit or our higher self, however you want to call that. Because when I'm letting that write through me or speak through me, I'm much more effective. I'm much more clear. Something comes through that I probably wouldn't have thought of on my own. It's far more powerful, and that works in all areas of my life, in my relationships, in my work. Yeah. So
when I'm also a recovering planner.
Sure.
I could join a lot of clubs if they had them. But it was that false sense of control because I had the fear of the unknown. So most people want to control because they fear the unknown, right? Or they fear not being able to prevent harm.
Yes.
We actually, like, when you are in fear, you cannot be as creative, and you're like in this convergent tunnel vision
Exactly.
mindset, and you're going to try and solve it one way. And Connie, what you said is so right. Like once you learn to like open up, to trust that there's a higher being, a higher entity that is looking out for you, you can open up to creative divergent thinking. And like I could not have predicted what I do now. Like
Mm-hmm. Me
things
either.
better than you could have planned
I
will
imagine
show up
like
in your life.
my 20-year-old self knew what I was doing right now. They'd be like, what?
I know, right?
Really?
I spent 25 years thinking I had to control and plan, and I was leading a life that wasn't aligned to mine.
Right.
And I thought there's no way I could change.
I mean, my life has just gotten better and better the more that I have allowed that flow to come through me. Um, and it's not something that happened right away, right? It took practice. Took the practice of, okay, how can I trust the process in
Yes.
this, and trusting in small things. So maybe trusting in this moment right now. Like if I just sit here and I breathe for a moment, that I'll be able to handle the next moment. I'll be able to get those taxes done. I'll be able to, like, in small ways, you build up that ability to trust in something bigger coming through you.
Absolutely. Guys, if you're listening, you might be thinking, I don't even know where to begin. The first thing I would just say, I'm going to put it up here on the screen, but is take our self-love quiz, unlocklimitlessyou.com/quiz. If you're like me and so many others, you think you're normal, you think you're good, because normal is not in flow. Normal is what Connie's describing. Check boxes, worries, past, future, blah, 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 all the things, self-pity, judgment, fear. Like slow down. It takes less than 3 minutes. It's only 12 questions. See how you're showing up for yourself and showing up with others. And that's going to help you figure out, am I in flow? Am I not in flow? Because love and your higher power is how you get to flow, right? Once you kind of
Absolutely.
have that awareness, then you can start getting curious. And like Connie
Yes.
said, experiment. Try something new each day and see how it feels to you. Try it on. So Connie, I wish we had another 30 minutes, another hour. If there's
Right.
one principle or mindset shift you want listeners to take away about living in flow, what would it be and how can they start today? Like really embody it today, not just like you said, know it from their thinking brain. But how can they feel it and embody it and start practicing with it?
Come back to the present moment, back to what I first started talking about. Learn to see the value of the present moment and really get this is the moment you have, not something down in the future. You don't know what's going to happen down in the future. This moment is precious. It's precious. We're not going to have this particular moment again. We'll have a new moment. But to really value right here, right now, especially like with your children, with the people you care about and love in your life, and make the most of this moment right now with your heart open, not with a panicky, like, oh, okay, I've got to get everything done this moment. No, like live here, be here in this present moment, feel yourself in this present moment. This is where you're going to be able to access the self-love that Yvonne's talking about, the greater love of something much bigger than you, and being able to be a vehicle, an expression of that love through you is being right here in this present moment with yourself and with wherever and whoever you are.
Absolutely. And really, guys, it's not a luxury. It's almost like something that is mandatory for life. If you
Absolutely.
have family, if you have coworkers, if you have clients, if you're dealing with any other human beings, they don't care if you're a great multitasker or checking the boxes. They care about like feeling positive energy.
Mm-hmm.
Like your skin is overrated, right? Like it doesn't hold in your energy. So if you're in that present moment, living authentically as yourself, like Connie said, you're going to radiate like amazing energy, and you're going to attract the people and the abundance and the prosperity and all of the things that you want. And you get to stop chasing. And like Connie said earlier, treading water, because who wants to do that for a lifetime?
No. Learn that, and then you can learn to float when you come into the present moment. Like,
Absolutely.
Be carried by that larger current of something that wants to take you to something even better in your life, that wants to take you to your highest good.
That's exciting.
Mhm.
Connie, for those interested in deepening their understanding or seeking guidance on how they can connect and work with you, I put it in the banner. If you're listening, it's awakeningself.com. Connie, what will they find there? What do you hope to give them as a gift to unlock this flow in their life that we've been
Well, I
talking
have a
about?
lot of things available on my website. I have a lot of videos and for other podcasts that I've been on that they can watch. I have tons of blogs and articles that are inspiring that help them learn about, how to practice presence, what is the value of it, and all kinds of other things, spirituality, yoga, philosophy, personal growth. And then I also, if they want to be part of my email list, I send a weekly bit of inspiration out every Sunday morning. Then also there's a gift with that they learn 4 calming practices for moving through stress and anxiety.
Oh, I love that because it's all about experience, right? And Connie's got some great things there where you can start experiencing it, guys. It doesn't have to be a big step. It can be one little practice with one thing from her website that completely changes your world. We know that society tries to make us believe that we have to take medicine or we have to spend years in therapy, and you actually really don't.
Right.
So whether you practice some of the things on Connie's website or you go to unlocklimitlessyou.com, you can schedule a free call with myself or Brad. We have a ton of great resources. It doesn't take years. Literally, it just takes a few hours
Mhm.
over a few months for you to experience profound change. So if you or someone you know is suffering, feeling stuck, or feeling like you have to do it all on your own, that used to be me. So I know where you're at.
Mhm.
Know that you don't have to. Reach out to Connie, reach out to Brad or I at Limitless You, or someone you trust. Just don't wait. Life can get so much better when you unlock the limitless you. So until next time, we're on a mission to help a million people, but we can't do it alone. We're so glad to have Connie's Alliance to try and help more and more people create amazing community of this planet that we share here on Earth. We need your help. So if you're watching or listening to this, or if you know somebody, just share it with them.
Mhm.
Like it, share it, rate it, anything you can do to push out the word, to help end suffering, increase happiness, and so that we all can start flowing gently down the stream. Until next time, may the light in me help the light in you shine brighter. We'll see you next time.
Subscribe if you don't want to miss out on more life-changing content. And if you're struggling, you don't have to. Go to bradchandler.com/contact. There, you can join the Facebook community of like-minded entrepreneurs, and you'll see a button to schedule your freedom and happiness call. See you on the next episode.